Erwin Smith is one of the most beloved and most badass characters in Attack on Titan. So today, we're talking about his entire life story. If you like this type of content, be sure to let me know who else I should talk about in the comments down below, and let's get right into it. Even early in life, Erwin saw the world differently than most. He had an innate curiosity and challenged the history that was commonly accepted as fact. He questioned why humanity had no memory of history before the walls, and asked his school teacher, his father, these questions while in school. His father couldn't answer these questions in class, but he would share his theories with Erwin in their personal time together. Erwin would go on to tell his friends in town about his father's theories, which would lead to the man's accidental death. After this incident, Erwin became determined to find the truth of the world. He would enlist in the training corps and become friends with Niall Dock in the process. It was also around this time that Erwin became much more tight-lipped about his theories and who he told them to. Niall and Erwin went their separate ways after Niall married a woman that Erwin also fell for. Erwin would then join the Survey Corps with the goals of finding the truth of the world. He would stop sharing his theories with other people completely, as he realized he was the only one there with a selfish motivation. Over time, Erwin rose through the ranks of the Survey Corps and would go on to recruit Levi Ackerman from the underground after a failed assassination attempt, which is a pretty complicated way to start a relationship. Over the next 20 years, Erwin would continue to rise, and he would even develop a new formation for the Scouts. This new formation would allow the Survey Corps to easily avoid Titans, but unfortunately, Keith Shaddis, the current commander, did not want to implement the formation on the Survey Corps. As a result, Erwin only employed this method on his own squadron, which leads to his squad losing fewer members than the rest of the Survey Corps. It is also during this time that Hange joins the Survey Corps, as well as some other familiar faces. After the devastating exposition of 845, Keith retires and leaves the position of commander to Erwin. Now let's get to some of the fun stuff. But before we do, please consider subscribing. Only 10% of my viewers are subscribed, and I would really like to get that number down by the end of the year. To do that, I need your help. If you've watched more than one of my videos, this is your time to subscribe, because you obviously like the content, and it really does help quite a bit. Anyway, let's move on to the female Titan arc. Erwin is mostly absent from the Battle of Trust as the Survey Corps is out on an expedition, but after Trust is saved, Erwin has a conversation with Eren about his Titan powers. These powers have created quite a commotion within the walls. Erwin then shows Eren that he has the key to the basement, which he had to have taken from Eren at some point. He asks Eren if the basement holds the answer to the mystery of the Titans. Eren believes that is the case. Erwin then goes on to explain that he thinks the Colossal and Armored Titan are the same as Eren, and that it will be up to Eren to decide how his powers are used. Eren says he wants to kill all of the Titans, which, like, what a surprise. Levi likes this answer, and Erwin informs him that he will be put on trial at a military tribunal to discuss what to do with his powers. All three branches of the military want to use Eren's powers for one reason or another, so the tribunal will be decided by Premier Zachary. Erwin and Pixis want Eren to live, but they do not believe that is the same case for the military police. As the tribunal begins, it doesn't take long for Eren to get pissed off. What a surprise. Levi then beats the shit out of him, and Erwin takes advantage of this opportunity to propose that Eren be placed under Levi's control in the Survey Corps, as no other soldier would be able to control Eren. He also agrees to turn Eren over to the military police if he fails his first expedition. Zachary agrees with Erwin's proposition, and the Survey Corps secures Eren. Afterward, Erwin apologizes to Eren for the treatment by Levi, and shortly after that, Hange's Titans are killed by someone in the Corps. Erwin asks Eren who he thinks the real enemy is, implying that there might be a greater threat than just pure Titans. Erwin then speaks at the recruitment ceremony for the cadets. This is the first of his famous speeches. He talks about how the Survey Corps is the only hope for humanity, and that these new recruits are a representation of this hope, but he also tells them how almost all of them will die, and it will be a brutal death. Erwin also publicly announces the goal of getting to the basement in order to be freed from Titans. This speech inspires many cadets to join the Survey Corps, including the entire top 10 except Annie. And then, the 57th expedition begins. They depart from Karanos, and Erwin orders the Scouts to use his long-distance scouting formation. It doesn't take long for things to go awry, as the right flank is completely destroyed by the female Titan. Despite this loss, Erwin orders his soldiers to continue into the forest of giant trees. His squad and the people in charge of the convoy carts set up a wire trap for the Titan. It works. We then get a little bit of background on Erwin from a few different scouts. The reason he was entrusted with the Survey Corps is his willingness to play risky. When facing an enemy much stronger than yourself, you must be willing to throw everything away for the sake of victory. everybody. It doesn't matter if that everything is your own life or someone else's. This willingness to gamble is a trait that we will see in Erwin time and time again. Erwin plans to cut Annie out of her Titan using explosives. Upon hearing this, Annie summons Titans to eat her out of her Titan. It doesn't take long for the Titan to be devoured with no sign of Annie. Erwin orders a full retreat back to Karanas, and he orders Levi to refill his blades and gas. Then we see the first major development for Erwin. He realizes that the enemy he is up against is not only highly intelligent, but willing to throw away everything to hide their secrets. This excites Erwin as it means his opponent has something worth hiding, and he feels that he's finally making progress towards his goals. He also realizes that it's likely that the person inside the Titan managed to survive and escape with maneuver gear on, which is why he asked Levi to refuel. He also realizes it was a mistake to use Eren, a novice, as the basis of their assumptions, and that was a major proponent of the mission's failure. All of these factors lead to Erwin's conclusion that they must assume the impossible is possible if they want to win. After Annie's capture, Erwin talks to Pixis about that capture, before being interrupted by Phil, who reports that Bertold, Reiner, and Ymir were also Titans, and that the Corps inspecting the walls engaged in combat with the Colossal and Armored Titans, but they got away with Eren. Erwin then gathers the remaining scouts and the military police to depart and rescue Eren. They meet up with Hange, who shows Erwin where they think Reiner and Bertold went. They must get to their location in a forest of giant trees before nightfall, or Reiner and Bertold will escape. The military force departs from the wall, and the formation is quickly encroached by Titans. Instead of redirecting like he did during the expedition, Erwin orders his troops to pull in because they don't have time for a redirection. Over time, their sides are squeezed, and Erwin orders the troops to force their way through. As they approach the forest, Erwin sees the Titan transformation, meaning they made it in time. Erwin's priority is recovery and retreat, not fighting the Titans swarming them. He spots Reiner running from the forest and leads his troops towards him. This also attracts all of the Titans following Erwin directly to Reiner, forcing the shifter to deal with the people on him and the Titans trying to eat him. Once Reiner is immobilized, Erwin orders a charge to save Eren. Right at the beginning of the charge, his arm is bitten by a Titan, and as he's dragged away, he orders his soldiers to continue the charge. The battle continues around Erwin, until Armin uses some fucked up psychological warfare to piss off Bertold, which gives Erwin the perfect opportunity to attack and recover Eren. He commands for the immediate retreat to Karanas, but Reiner has other plans. One of these Titans thrown by Reiner knocks Erwin off his horse, and quickly the battle turns against the military. It looks very bleak for the recovery force, until Eren makes contact with the Titan Dina Fritz, activating the Founding Titan, which allows him to control pure Titans and leading to a safe retreat. While recovering, Erwin learns of the events that transpired at Rakago Village, and that it is very likely that Titans are humans. This is another major step towards uncovering the secrets of the worlds, and despite the losses that he suffered earlier, Erwin is feeling hopeful. After recovering, he heads to the capital for a meeting where he finds out Pastor Nick was murdered. On top of this, the meeting does not go well for him, and as a result, he starts talking to Pixis about staging a coup. He tells Pixis about his father's fate and how he is approaching the truth that is being hidden. Erwin wants to replace the current monarchy with Historia, but Pixis does not want to be a part of the coup at this time, as he believes there might be a reason behind the government's secrecy, or that they might have knowledge that the military cannot survive without. On his return to the Survey Corps HQ, Erwin is told that the Interior First Squad is looking for him because he apparently murdered someone. He didn't, but he knows what's going on. In case he doesn't return, he appoints Hange as the next commander of the Survey Corps, and then the Survey Corps is blamed for the death of Demo Reeves. We, the viewer, know that's not true, but unfortunately, Erwin has no evidence to back it up, so his defense is useless. The nobles then reveal that Levi also killed several men in the military police, and that the Survey Corps is not needed within the walls. Erwin argues that the Survey Corps is the only hope for humanity within the walls, and that now is the worst time to dismantle it. He argues that if wall rows were to be breached, civilization would crumble in a matter of days due to a lack of resources. Even without Titans, it's possible that the walls will be breached by humans desperate for resources, as the citizens in wall rows are continuing to suffer. In Erwin's eyes, reclaiming Wall Maria is the only way to secure humanity's future. He asks the royals if there is some secret plan to reclaim the wall. Their silence means no. This shows Pixis that the current government is most likely useless. The royals redirect and claim that Erwin's monopolization of Eren is in violation of Clause 6 of the Charter of Humanity. Erwin claims this is not the case, but he is quickly struck down. On top of this, it appears that Pixis supports the royals' decision to dismantle the Survey Corps, and the royals sentence Erwin to immediate execution. But before they can hang him, they are interrupted, as it is announced that Wall Rose has been breached. Pixis orders his men to assist the evacuees as they are the highest priority. However, the royals tell them to close Wall Shina and deny every single citizen entry into the wall. They claim that Erwin was right earlier and they don't have the resources to save all of humanity. They then try to force the troops to move as they plot something. At this moment, Erwin's old friend Niall refuses the orders because he is from Wall Rose, and he believes this is the wrong decision. Premier Zachary agrees with him. The report was a false alarm in order to see how the royals would react, plotted by Pixis. He feels the best course of action is to remove the royals from power because they are more concerned with self-preservation than the safety of humanity. Erwin then confirms that the actions of the royals are a violation of Clause 6 of the Charter of Humanity, and the royals are replaced by a military oligarchy. Humanity has just begun down a new path thanks to the actions of Erwin, Pixis, and Zachary. Erwin and Zach have a conversation about their actions, and Erwin wonders if he did the right thing or if it would have been better to hand Eren off to the old government. He wonders if that one life is worth the rest of humanity, and it's obvious that his costly actions are starting to weigh on him. He wonders if it is conceited to think that his own life is more valuable than the rest of humanity's, and he thinks back to his dream. That evening, Erwin meets with Pixis and learns that the Rice family has the ability to alter human memories, meaning his and his father's theory was correct. He and the scouts depart for the Rice chapel only to see a monstrosity crawling towards them. Levi informs Erwin that that titan is indeed Rod Reese, and it is most likely headed towards Orvud. Erwin swiftly devises a strategy to stop Rod. He asks to run emergency evacuation drills, so the citizens of Orvud would be ready to leave if need be. After the garrison's cannons do nothing, Hange brings out barrels of gunpowder in a net, as well as modified maneuver gear that is also strapped to barrels of gunpowder. At the same time, Erwin requests that Historia move away from the front lines due to her new role as queen. She refuses, and there is nothing he can do to stop her. Rod pulls himself up onto the wall, and they enact Erwin's plan, blowing up his hands and using Eren and the gunpowder to blow up his neck. The scouts then take flight looking for the nape piece, and Historia ends up being the one to destroy it. She then assumes the throne. Over the next 2 months, it is revealed that the Interior Military Police preserved some of the technology from the Interior First Squad, and they were able to create new weapons for defeating Titans that are much less risky. Hange also creates the Executioner from Hell, allowing for Titans to be destroyed at 0 risk. On top of this, a vial of Titan serum was given to Levi by Kenny. We next see Erwin in a meeting with the military heads, and he tells them that the scouts will be making an attempt to retake Shiganshina in about a month. This cannot fail, or it means an early end to the military leadership within the walls. The leadership then determines that the serum should stay with Levi, as he has the greatest chance of surviving. Hange has also determined that the only way to make this serum would be with technology that is much more advanced than what is available within the walls, yet again confirming that there is life outside. Levi then asks Erwin what he'll do after his dream is accomplished, and Erwin does not know. Hange later tells Erwin that Grisha is a human that originated outside of the walls and possessed the power of the Titans. They then discuss the contents of the basement, and while Erwin hopes that it is the memories that the Reese family stole, they won't know until they get there. After everyone leaves, Levi asks Erwin what he'll do after Wall Maria is recovered. Erwin says he'll focus on eliminating threats, but further planning can wait until after the mission. Levi points out that Erwin might not make it that long, as he is without an arm, limiting his mobility. He wants Erwin to let Hange lead the troops, while Erwin stays back for his own safety. Erwin refuses, stating that it is his plan and that it will not succeed without him. He believes the best option is yet another big gamble, although he does admit that a wounded soldier has no place on the battlefield. But the main reason he has to go is because he must be there when the basement is opened. The scouts are about to depart, and they let out a victorious battle cry with a send-off that they have never seen before. And just like that, the mission to reclaim Wall Maria begins. They arrive in Shiganshina without much issue, and Erwin orders the change to 3D maneuver gear. He has all the soldiers wear hoods in order to hide Eren's identity. After the outer gate is sealed, Armin informs him that someone has been there, and recently. He tells Armin to take a squad and investigate the walls, and thanks to Armin's unique perspective, Reiner is revealed and transforms. Before Erwin can even finish his next command, Zeke and a bunch of Pure Titans transform, trapping the scouts in Shiganshina. Zeke then hurls a rock and blocks the inner gate, preventing retreat. It is now obvious that both sides want this conflict to end here and now. Reiner starts scaling the wall, and Erwin orders his troops not to engage. He then notices Peak, and believes she is the one that notified the other warriors about the scouts' arrival. Zeke then orders his short titans to rush towards the scouts, and Erwin orders 3 squads to protect the horses, and then orders Levi and Hange squads to take down the armored titan. He once again asks the scouts to dedicate their hearts, and gives Levi the specific task of killing Zeke. After a quick stare down with Reiner, he notices how much weaker the scouts are are now, as they are struggling with even just short titans. He reflects on how many lives he's thrown away. They were necessary losses to get this far, but they're now biting the scouts in the ass. He feels guilty because he asked them to give their hearts and their lives while preserving his own, and doing so for a selfish reason. Even now, as his troops die before him, he thinks he could make it to the basement even if the mission fails. Even if he stands upon a mountain of corpses, he still wants to accomplish his selfish goal. While Erwin is considering all this, Reiner is defeated and lets out a scream that is a signal to throw Berthold. Luckily, Bert's a bitch, so he doesn't transform right away, but he does shortly after, destroying Hange's squad in the process. Things on the other side of the wall are not looking much better, as just after the transformation, Zeke starts hurling rocks. This decimates the Survey Corps, and it starts to eat away at the buildings the Survey Corps needs to use their 3D maneuver gear. Erwin then meets up with Levi and goes over the dire situation. As they're talking, Eren gets launched on top of the wall. Levi suggests fleeing, as it's better than everyone dying. Erwin denies almost every suggestion Levi has, but he is also reluctant to enact the only plan he has, as it comes at a high cost. No matter what, almost everyone will die. Erwin would lead the recruits to their deaths to give Levi the chance to kill the Beast Titan. He knows everyone involved in the charge is as good as dead, meaning he would never get to complete his dream. He knows he's so close to uncovering what's in the basement. This is the dream that has carried him for his entire life, the dream that he shared with his father. He wonders if this dream is what all of his fallen comrades gave their lives for, or if they died for the hope of saving humanity. He wonders, would they be happy with how he treated their hearts? Levi thanks him for his service and tells him the honest truth. Erwin must give up on his dream and lead the troops to hell. He will deal with the Beast Titan. Erwin tells the recruits his plan. Needless to say, they aren't exactly happy to hear this idea, so he gives one of the best speeches in anime history. Impassioned by their fallen comrades and the safety of humanity, Erwin and the recruits charge to their deaths. Many are gouged, and almost all will die. Except two, Erwin and Flock. Erwin is almost dead, but Flock finds his body and then carries him to find Levi and the Titan's serum, where he also finds Armin in a similar but slightly crispier situation. An intense argument breaks out, and after a long emotional conflict, Levi makes his choice. He does not choose to save Armin. He chooses to let Erwin rest. Levi believed that Erwin had done enough, and he was already suffering from the weight of the lives that he spent. To be chosen over Armin would only make that suffering greater. Erwin Smith, a selfish gambler, is one of the most popular characters in Attack on Titan. He's also one of the most compelling and interesting characters in modern anime. Thank you all for watching. If you made it to the end, please consider checking out the Discord, maybe the Patreon, and please consider subscribing. Also, let me know if you want to see me do this with other characters, and if so, who. Thank you again, and I'll see you next week.